everyone! Welcome to episode 23 of Franklin Fiber, my knitting, spinning, fiber-related podcast. I'm Julie, also known by my internet handle, which is Lovey Lamb. Lovey Lamb on Instagram and Ravelry, and probably a few other places, but I don't check them, so Instagram and Ravelry. Welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if it's your first time watching, hi. Nice to see you. I guess I'm just going to get into this. Sorry, I am wearing a hat today. It is a humid, cloudy, gray day, and that means that my hair is especially unruly. But the nice thing about being a knitter is that I have a virtually unlimited supply of hats that I can wear to cover up my crazy hair. So this is one that you've seen before. It's the Bray hat, which is... It's a Brooklyn tweed pattern. I can't remember if Jared Flood wrote it. I think he did. But it's a nice little cable-y, very slouch-tacular hat with a pom-pom. And this is out of my hand-dyed alpaca merino blend that I did in an ombre. So it's my ombre bray, if you will. And it makes me a little happier than I have been today. Today has just been a really blah day, with cloudy skies kind of mirroring my cloudy attitude. Just like, oh God, one of those days, I know you've had them, where it's just like nothing's going right and everything is frustrating and you just want to stomp your feet like a little kid, but you know that that actually doesn't fix anything. And so I've just been knitting. This whole week has been kind of a blah week, everybody. So I think this is going to be a short episode because I have what I'm going to talk about and not a whole lot else. Just not feeling it. But I thought about putting off the podcast again, but I've done that too many times. And you don't deserve it. So instead, I'm going to put on a smile. And hopefully my knitting will cheer me up. It usually does. So let's talk knitting. Nice segue, right? I have 2 works in progress that are active. Many, many, many works in progress that are not active. But we don't want to talk about them. So, number 1 is my Rhinebeck Vest. It's like an 80s one-shouldered vest right now. Also a bit revealing, seeing as this is only the front. So, this is the wood hollow vest made out of Cascade 220, the non-superwash Cascade, worsted weight. This color is called Highland Green. I couldn't remember it last episode, but I did remember it this time. There are no ball bands, because this was yarn that had already been knit up into the Acer cardigan. And this is the Acer cardigan in its current form. So it's a little kinky, but it works. And yeah, made some progress. So this is, as I said, the wood hollow vest. That's a Kristen Kapoor pattern. Really nice, cable-y, pretty. I really like how it's coming out. The Cascade 220 has wonderful stitch definition, which is why it's a great choice for your cable patterns. And I'm knitting it on, these are size 6 Addy Turbo lace, circulars, 32 inches. I really like Addy Turbo lace needles for their non-interchangeable circular needles. I've never used the interchangeable, so I can't really speak to that, but I do really like these as just like a general all-purpose workhorse cable needle. They have a very nice pointy tip. I don't like using wood needles because they kind of make my hands feel clammy. I don't want to like overshare or gross you out, but I don't know, something about how they warm up. I know some people like their needles to warm up in their hands. I actually at one time toyed with inventing needles that you put ice cubes into because I really like cold needles. So that's a personal quirk. And I'm not going to be inventing those. So if someone else wants to go ahead and do that, make freezer needles, PM me once they're ready to be tested, and I'll check out that prototype. But in the meantime, I like these a lot. And they've got a really nice join, very smooth. Should probably hold them a little closer, I guess. And the cable needle itself is flexible without being sloppy. It has very little memory, but it has some. So the signature needles, which I have used as well, they have a really floppy cable with almost no memory, which can be nice, but sometimes you actually, or sometimes I anyway, actually like to have a needle with some structural integrity to it, especially if I'm like working across a lot of stitches out of a heavy yarn, and it can actually be a little bit uncomfortable to have all of that weight pulling down on the cable needle in the center, if you know what I mean, that you're actually having to support both sides of it a little bit more than something that has more structure and that is going to kind of hold it up a little on its own. Anyway, somehow that turned into a needle review, whatever. So yeah, so I have bound off for the neck, armhole shaping, and this is one side of the front shoulder. What else did I want to say? Oh yeah, I made it a little bit longer than the pattern specified. Pattern for this size, which is the small size, specified 13.5 inches to the neck bind off. And I made it 13.5 inches and I held it up to myself and it just kind of felt a little short. Like it was kind of riding up. And then I looked through the project pictures of people who have made this already and was looking at the length, and it did seem kind of high, which is fine for, you know, if you're like wearing it with a tucked in shirt or something. But I wanted this to be a little bit slouchy and something I can throw on over like a flannel or something like that. And I really wanted it to hit at or below the hip bone. So anyway, I continued it for a little over 15 inches total. And then that's a nice length. I noticed right before I started recording that I actually made a mistake. The only mistake that I made in this whole darn thing was right almost at the point of the neck bind off, and I'll show you in case you didn't catch it already. See that right there? That cable's going the wrong way. And that really helped my mood this morning when I saw that. And because it's on a section that is bound off at the top, and then that yarn is continued over here, it kind of limits my options for how to fix it right now if I'm not going to just unravel this whole section that I already did, which is like, I mean, it was about an hour of work. I don't know. I might just unravel this right here, go back and unravel this, bind off edge, and then drop down these, you know, over the course of 3 cable repeats for these 4 stitches here, and fix that, and then carry it back up. You know what I mean? Like if you dropped a stitch or if you need to fix a stitch, but do it for that whole cable. Smiles, right? Smiles. It's not what I want to do, but I know it's really going to annoy me, and it's like right at the top. You know what I mean? It's so obvious to me. If it was down here, I might not mind as much, or if it was over to the side, like on one of the side ones, I might not mind as much, but it's like, it's front and center. And you can see it freaks me out. So this was like an episode of Outlander right here. So I guess I'll have to rip it out and find something on Netflix to watch for an hour while I fix it, and then another hour to reknit there. Okay, not gonna let it get me down though. I've got other stuff that's positive. Let's go for the positive knitting, not the negative knitting. Halloween sock number 1 is done. This is, the pattern is called Traffic Islands. It's by Nicola W. on Ravelry. It's a free pattern. It is a take on the Jaywalker socks, which are a really popular sock pattern, but which tend to be really constricting and don't have a lot of stretch. So this one incorporates eyelets, which I don't believe the Jaywalker does, if I remember correctly. And so it has a little bit more give to it. It still is hard to get on over my heel. You know, like I kind of have to pull it over that part. But once they're on, they fit really well. They just fit very snug and perfect, which I like. I hate slouchy socks. So that's always kind of what I'm fighting against when I'm knitting socks, because they tend to be a little bit, you know, they're slouchier than the socks you buy at the Target or whatever. So this is the finished one. It is out of Opal yarn. Show you the ball. I haven't cast on for the second one yet. Here's what I have. So there's the yarn. A little bit of a mess there. There you go. It's a really, really, really nice yarn. I like it a lot. It's got, how many plies is this? I think it's 3. How many plies are you? Speak to me, yarn. I'm like the yarn whisperer. Totally not the yarn whisperer. Okay, 3 plies it is. We're going with it. No. No. Don't lie to the people, Julie. It's 4 plies. I can count. It's a 4-ply sock yarn in a wool and nylon blend. The colorway is called Mauer. It's from their Handwerk and Hobby series. It is 100 grams, so I definitely have enough for 2 socks. We'll have enough, and I'll have leftovers, which is fine. So yeah, here's the pattern. I really like it. This is like addictive knitting. It has enough patterning that it holds your interest visually and while you're knitting, but it's so easy to memorize. I mean, it's a 2-row repeat, you know, and one of those rows is just knitting. So you only have to remember how to do one thing, which is do some yarn overs and then some decreases. That's it. So it's I highly recommend this pattern. It's very well written and easy to work. So numero uno. And then I'm making these as my Halloween socks, even though it's not officially a Halloween colorway, but I think you can see why. It looks pretty Halloweeny. And I am doing this as part of the Knit Girls Cal. It's a Cal that they're running. It's actually a craft along, craft anything you want along for Halloween. And so that's why, that was my inspiration for doing these. Also because I just don't have any fun Halloween socks. Or fun holiday socks, period. Or fun socks, period. I haven't, I don't know, I've knit a lot of socks, but usually they're for somebody else. But these are for me. And they are kind of a little bit my precious. If Gollum were here, I think he'd understand. They are being housed in my Halloween Tangerine Designs bag. And they're being knit on also Addi Turbo Lace, size 1.5 needles. Which is, it's actually a really nice gauge for this. It's a thinner sock yarn, so they're coming out a little bit thin, which I like. I don't like bulky socks either. I tend to wear my shoes snug. I don't buy shoes, like when I'm buying shoes, I'm wearing usually a very thin pair of socks because that's generally what I'm wearing, or no socks. I do sometimes wear bare feet in my shoes. Don't tell anyone, I know it's gross, but it's comfortable. Anyway, I have, most all my shoes are pretty snug. So like right now, I'm wearing a pair of sport weight hand knit socks because it's a little chilly in my apartment, but I could not get these into any shoes that I own. So the thinner the better, as far as I'm concerned. So I think that's all I have to talk about for knitting in progress. I have finished 0 things, which is fine. There was something else I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, it was about this, about my now slight failure of a sweater, or a vest. I mentioned it's my Rhinebeck vest, and Rhinebeck is the weekend of October 18th. So that's not very long, considering that today, the day I'm recording, is September 30th. That gives, and 30 days has September, as we all know. So that gives me approximately 18 days to have a finished garment to wear to Rhinebeck. That means that I fully anticipate wearing a slightly damp sweater to Rhinebeck, because God knows I'm going to finish this like the night before, block it, and then have a damp sweater to wear the next day. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but probably will. Anyway, so with that in mind, I have decided that I'm not going to be continuing this pattern on the back of this vest, which is what the pattern calls for, and it looks really lovely. But I just don't have the time for that, or honestly the inclination right now. This is a lot of patterning. Almost every row on the front, on the right side, does involve some kind of cable crossing. Actually, every row, in fact, involves crossing stitches. So it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time, and it's at a very small gauge, and I feel like I'm getting tennis elbow from it. So I will be doing this broken rib panel on the back, but then these panels of cables will all just be stockinette. I may or may not do these little honeycomb cables, one on either side. We'll see. Probably not, but whatever. So I did just want to mention that. that it's going to be a bit of a cheater sweater, but that's okay. All right, so no finished objects, but I do have finished spinning. And it's got some cat lint on it. Cat loves to sit on, he doesn't bother my knitting or my spinning. He doesn't like try to catch, grab the yarn or anything, but he does feel the need to sit on everything. As soon as you put it down, it's like you've put it down as a little special pillow just for him. Anyway, this is this is hand spun that I showed you the fiber last week. It was a gift from my friend Betsy in exchange for watching her dogs, which she really didn't have to do. It was very generous. I don't remember, it wasn't any yarn company that I'd heard of before. So I can't really remember it off the top of my head. I have my little basket over here. Let's see if I left the tag in there. Oh, I did. Success. It is Damselfly Yarns, Merino Tencel 50/50, in the Moonlight colorway. So here's the fibery label, Damselfly Yarns, and they have an Etsy shop, which is damselflyyarns.etsy.com. It was purchased, I believe, in Seattle, which is where Betsy moved from when she moved here to the Jersey Shore. So here it is, finished. That's what we were getting at, right? It's really pretty. The fiber itself, if you recall, was very shiny and this pretty cornflower blue. And this is a 2-ply, which is kind of my standard way of spinning now. If I'm just, just sitting down. I only have 3 bobbins, so it makes it very difficult for me to do a 3-ply that's not chain ply. And I don't really like chain plying unless I really want to preserve color shifts, because chain plying does create these little, it's not a nub, it's just like a little hard spot where the ply has doubled back on itself. And in that spot you can kind of feel the doubled over yarn, and it creates these, I don't know, it's just like, it's a textural thing. I do appreciate it, and I have used it a lot when I'm trying to, preserve color repeats in a really interestingly dyed fiber. This being a solid or semi-solid fiber, didn't make sense to do that, and so my only option left is to 2-ply. And I have lately been applying my yarn from a cake, so from both ends at the same time, because that way I can use every single bit of the fiber in the final yarn, as opposed to having split it in half and spun both of those halves. And every single time, I will have spun it a little bit thinner on one side than the other, and so I'll have leftover yarn on one bobbin that I don't have anything left on the other one to ply it to. So that's why I do that. That's why I have been doing that. Anyway, back to this. It is really, really soft. It's really plush. It has a beautiful luster to it. It's hard to see in this light, but it has this like really great pearlescent quality to it, where if you have it sitting in the light, it almost looks like it's lit from within, which is lovely. And got a nice tight twist to it, so it'll have good stitch definition, especially because it is so shiny. And I got about 200 yards of, it ranges from a sport weight up to a worsted weight, so I guess I'll call it a DK weight. So 200 yards of a DK weight from 4 ounces, which really isn't that great. I was expecting to have more yardage from this, but I think part of the deal is that Tencel is a heavier fiber than wool. So 4 ounces of 50% Tencel is actually less fiber than 4 ounces of 100% wool, if you get what I'm saying, because that Tencel, each individual fiber, if you will, weighs more than an individual fiber of wool. So what I ended up with was a denser yarn and a little bit less yarn, but it's still really beautiful, and it'll be something precious. Maybe a pretty cowl or something like that, or this would be a lovely hat. It'd be really drapey, or like gauntlets or something like that. It will be something. Have no fear. And I'm really happy with it. I like the way it came out. So that is my spinning that I finished. I haven't started any new spinning because I'm waiting for the beginning of October, because that is when the Yarn Raising podcast, Malia of the Yarn Raising podcast, is starting her new to you spin along. And the idea behind that is that you can either spin a fiber that's new to you, use a technique that's new to you, or use a tool that's new to you, or all of the above. And so I have, you've seen these before, I have some silk hankies, hand-dyed silk hankies, 0.8 grams. I will take it out. I'm like, they're so soft and delicate, I'm afraid to touch them. This is by Chasing Rainbows Dye Works in the More Teals colorway. And they're so pretty. And it's like, these are incredible things. Really, I don't know how to spin these yet. I have videos bookmarked on the line, as my mom says, but I haven't watched them yet. I'm a little intimidated because this feels like the most delicate thing I've ever held in my hands. And as I'm touching it, little fibers are sticking to, little hangnails or dry skin or things that I didn't even notice on my hands. But the silk definitely notices. But they're really, really pretty. So I want to spin these on my wheel, not on a spindle, because I don't really do spindles anymore. No offense to the spindle world. I just they're too slow for me. I have very little patience, I guess. I'm working on it. That's something that maybe as the colder weather kicks in and I just want to be all cozy inside, that's when I'll pick up the spindle again. So anyway, I haven't started these, but I just wanted to pull them out and show you. And I will be starting them this week, hopefully, so that I can participate in Malia's Cal, or Sal, spin along. I think that's pretty much it for the fiber to show you. Someone else is being impatient outside. They're honking. Sorry. So that's my fibery world right now. This week is, I don't know. Though this week was, I don't want to tell you, I'm not going to turn this podcast into a Julie's personal week podcast. But I did get to set up at the Asbury Park Fall Bazaar. The Fall Bazaar is an annual craft fair that the city of Asbury Park, New Jersey, which is where I live. It's located in Convention Hall, which is a beautiful Art Deco space on the boardwalk here in Asbury Park. And so anyway, it's called the Fall Bazaar. It's a craft fair. My husband and I participated with the weavings that we sell, made by a cooperative in Guatemala, a cooperative of women weavers in Guatemala who we've partnered with. And we design and they execute, and it's beautiful, beautiful products. Anyway, that was a big part of my week this week. So I didn't get a whole lot of other things done because I was preparing for that. And I realized I should have told you on the podcast in case there were any local viewers who would be interested in checking out that craft fair. And it was a really fun time. It was a beautiful, beautiful sunny day. But I had actually forgotten that we were doing that at the time until a few days before the Fall Bazaar actually happened. So it was a bit of a scramble to get everything ready for that. But we did go, and it was a great success and a wonderful time. But we do have other ones that are scheduled coming up in the fall, other craft markets that we're going to be participating in. And so I will give you a heads up about those. Not so that you can buy stuff from me, but because they're really cool, and Christmas is coming. It's like Game of Thrones, but a little less threatening. Winter is coming, which means Santa's coming. And there are some great vendors who tend to come to a lot of these, really, really good people. So I will try to be a little bit more on top of it next time and remember that we're actually going to these craft fairs. So I had that going on. And then also, my mom is out of town. My in-laws are out of town. They're actually all on separate European vacations, which means I've had a lot of cats to take care of. My own, and they each have a cat. So there's been that. And my in-laws' cat got sick, of course, as soon as they went away. So it's been back and forth to the vet. And anyway, I just kind of feel like I haven't had any me time lately to really just sit down and knit or just I have to organize my yarn stash, things like that. But yeah, this is not the complaining podcast, I promise. But that's also why I've been bad about show notes again. I know, I'm sorry, I promise. I even gave my Scout's honor, my fake Scout honor, but it was just like, it's kind of been a hassle with the uploading as well for this video podcast. But I think I have finally figured that one out. I think I finally have a way that it won't take me 10 hours to get these things uploaded. So fingers crossed, that will be a problem of the past. And my intention this week, since we don't have craft fairs coming up, and my family will be back in town soon, my plan this week is to go back through the last few episodes and actually put up the show notes, because it's not fair to you, and I know that. I mean, you know, you put up with me complaining. You put up with, you know, watching the podcast, but whenever I talk about something and say, oh, I don't remember what it is, I'll just link it in the show notes, I know I should follow through on that. So this is me. This is my mea culpa. I will go back and rectify that, but thank you in the meantime for being patient. And I think that might be it for this podcast. Not to end on a on a downer note for me, but yeah, that's it, I guess. Sorry, like I said, today is just not a great day. Actually, I think I had too much coffee. I think I have the opposite problem that I usually have. Regardless, all things must pass. Everything's going to be okay on this end. I will get out of this funk. And next week is going to be a much better week for this podcast. So if this is your first time watching, I'm really sorry. I'm not always this droopy dog. I promise. But anyway, like I said, thank you for watching. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Oh, wait. One more thing I had to talk about. I remember now. I have a cow that's going in my group. I've talked about a couple other cows in other groups, but in my Ravelry group for the Franklin Fiber podcast, we had a month of September knit along that was just baby items. Any item that you want to knit that's for a baby. That ends today, being as it is September 30th. So there is a thread in the Ravelry group where you can post your finished objects. I would ask that if you can separate, if you have multiple objects, put them in separate posts, but you don't have to, because I'm going to go through and number each finished object in a spreadsheet with, in the order that it was put in the thread, and then I'll do a drawing. Seashore Sharon on Ravelry, has really generously offered to donate a project bag, one of her hand-sewn beautiful project bags, for the cow prize. So if you are still thinking about doing that, get it in today. Like I said, it can really be anything that you knit in the month of September that has some kind of connection to babies. So if you knit a stuffed animal, you can just tell me it's for a baby. That's fine. I'll believe you. Or if you would want to really quickly get in like a pair of baby booties or a preemie hat that you have half finished somewhere, go ahead and do it. It doesn't have to be a cardigan or a baby blanket, but if you have that, put that in there too. What the heck? As many as you want. So that's one. Okay, and now I can end on a happier note, which is prizes. So and I also want to thank everyone who has participated so far. And so next week I'll do the drawing for that cow. Okay, and that is actually it. All right, like I said, have a great week, everybody. Until my next episode, stay crafty. Bye.